Okay, the instructions for number 2 are the same as the instructions for number 1. We're going to graph this quadratic, which is going to be a parabola when we graph it, only this time it's written more in the general form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So our a would be -2, the coefficient of x squared. The b would be 28, and the c would be -90. All right, don't be too afraid of these numbers being a little bit bigger. It won't be too bad. All right, you need to remember how to compute the vertex. Well, remember what the vertex is. When you have it, when you start in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, the vertex is -b over 2a, and then whatever that number is, you simply take f of that number to get the y value of the vertex. So let's write down -b over 2a is equal to -28 over 2a would be -4. So that's a +7. So the vertex is 7 comma something. All right, so let's plug this in. We want to get f of 7, and that's what we'll put right here. F of 7 is -2 times 49, I did x squared, which is 7 squared, 49, plus 28 times 7 minus 90. And that's equal to -98, 20 times 7 is 140, plus 8 times 7, which is 56. 140 and 56 gives us 196, minus 90. So the negatives add up to -188. So it's 196 minus 188, and that's 8. Okay, so it's going to be 7 comma 8 for our vertex. All right, well, let's now look at the x-intercepts. That means you set f of x, set this whole thing here equal to 0. So -2x squared plus 28x minus 90 equals 0. Well, the first thing I'm going to notice is that these are all even numbers on the left. We can divide both sides by 2. So we're going to take the whole thing, divide it by 2 on the left, divide the right by 2 as well. And we're going to get, let's divide them by -2. That way we can get an x squared. So that gives us x squared minus 14x plus half of 90 is 45, and that equals 0. And that gives us, if we factor this, I need an x and an x. And I'm going to need a minus because it multiplies to give me a positive 45, but adds together to give me a negative number, so they both have to be negative. So 9 times 5 is 45, and I think that's it. Multiply them, you get positive 45. Add them, you get -14. So setting that to 0, setting that to 0, gives us our x-intercepts are 5 and 9. And it's worth noting that let's go down to our axis of symmetry. The x value is 7 of our vertex, so x equals 7 is our axis of symmetry, the equation of our axis of symmetry. Therefore, notice that the x-intercepts happen to be 7 plus and minus 2. 7 minus 2 is 5, 7 plus 2 is 9. All right, now let's do f of 0 to get the y-intercept. F of 0 is, well, that's easy. 0, -90. So the y-intercept is -90, which is, or you can write 0 comma -90. That's going to be too small of a number since it's negative, too small to be able to get on our graph, but it still asked for what the y-intercept is. All right, what's the domain and what's the range? As always, the domain of every quadratic and every polynomial is all real numbers. And then the range, this one opens downward, which means that at the vertex we have the height of 8. That's going to be the biggest height the biggest value of the function. So it's going to go from negative infinity up to 8 with a square bracket on the 8. All right, now that we've answered all of those questions, filled in all those blanks, let's do our graph. All right, the vertex is 7, 8. Let me raise this up a little bit. 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we already have 2 other points, don't we? The X-intercepts are 5 and 9. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 9. So we really only need 2 more points. And if you remember, since we have the axis of symmetry going through the vertex, which we always have on a parabola, we really only need to come up with 1 more point. Let's plug in either, this was 5, let's either plug in 6 or 8, and we will get the same value. So I'll choose 6. Let's choose f of 6. That's going to give us a -2. X squared would be 6 squared, which is 36, plus 28 times 6 minus 90. This is -72 plus 28 times 6. 20 times 6 is 120. 8 times 6 is 48. 120 plus 48 is 168. And then minus 90. And the negatives add up to 162. Negative 162. 168 minus 162 is a 6. So that gives us the point 66. Which means here's 6, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we would get the same answer if we plugged in an 8. So that gives us 5 points. All right, so let's be real careful. And the parabola looks something like that, opening downward. And it's, if you compared that to g of x equals x squared, well, this is stretched twice as tall because a is 2, or -2. It's upside down. It's not opening upward, it's opening downward. And instead of the vertex being at 0, 0, the vertex is at 7, 8. With that information alone, we could have plotted this parabola. So that's the second parabola.